Thank you. We do have a few questions from the gallery. Mr. Panchenko, please.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to Growford Institute for this breakthrough in a fight between neoliberals and industrials in Ukraine, because Mr. Terner and his book, and I hope his future studies together with the Ukrainian experts who would help Ukrainian government to have the right financing possibility. We've heard Minister of Finance today. He explained about this lack of finances, but not because it is not possible. We already had the monetary fund this year to increase the budget deficit 2 times, and extraordinary possibility for industrial growth and industrial development has not yet been used because of lack of awareness of the Ministry of Finance. So my question to Mr. Terner is the same as from Mr. Deputy Zmerenetsky, is about institutions, but not the institutions on fighting corruption or the institutions of special regimes or some protectionist measures, but special institutions in the form of development bank on funds to use money, because Europe now has a plan of a decade of helicopter money, so Ukraine would not be able to use this possibility also in a Green Deal. You told about the UK having 40 gigawatt possibility of offshore. Ukraine has calculated 16 gigawatt of onshore wind power generation. So not to use this opportunity of Green Deal of Europe is would be a big loss for Ukraine.
Thank you.
I think this issue of development banks is a really, really important and interesting one, because if you go back to the basic theory of the way that we create nominal demand, which can either go into consumption, or it can go into real estate speculation, or it can go into industrial development. That nominal demand can come from a number of different sources. It can come from private banks creating credit and money. But we know empirically that private banks left to themselves have an inherent tendency to fund a lot of that towards real estate construction and real estate speculation. So you have to think about whether you can get all of your development from private bank credit creation. Another way to create new demand is for governments to run fiscal deficits and to directly fund investment. And under some circumstances, if we have very low rates of inflation and interest rates are very low, that can be supported by central bank forms of quantitative easing and monetary finance. But that has the disadvantage that if there is indiscipline, it can lead to hyperinflation. And that indeed is why my book was called Between Debt and the Devil, between the disadvantages of private debt, which can be head towards speculation in real estate, and the devil, which in this case is a reference to the figure Mephistopheles from Goethe's Faust, who tempts the emperor to print so much money that there might be hyperinflation. That is why the book is called it, that there are disadvantages of the state creating money and there are disadvantages of purely private banks creating money. Within those two disadvantages, development banks are a very interesting alternative, because what development banks do is you create something which is one step removed from the government and the political process, and therefore you can contain or limit the danger of overcreating money, because you create a structure of how much money it can create given its capital. It's disciplined, but you are also able to say to it, your mandate is only to lend money for industrial development. You're not allowed to go and start lending money for residential mortgages or real estate development or real estate speculation or whatever. And that is the basic theory of development banks. And I think they are very important institutions. Indeed, we in the UK are now going to set up a new national investment bank to focus on green investment, to help drive the development of green investment in the UK. The European Investment Bank plays a very important role. The EBRD plays a very important role. So it may well be, I would have thought, that in the Ukrainian situation, the way to choose, as it were, the optimal path between the dangers of pure private debt and the dangers, if you get it wrong, of indiscipline in the budget, is to use a national development bank with a clear mandate and clear institutional disciplines in order to drive increased funding of industrial development and in particular green development. So certainly I think that is a very interesting area to explore.